Hey everyone, Antonia Lujudice here from StayHungryBeFoolish.com, and today I'm so excited to be talking to Lindsay De Feliz. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
So, Lindsay, you're, for those who don't know you, you're a British expat. You're living in the Dominican Republic, and if I'm not mistaken, roughly for about 12 years now. You're a well-known blogger. Your blog, What About My Saucepans, is well-known. And you recently published a book with the same title, What About My Saucepans, which is right here, which, like I said, I've read it and I have all my little bookmarks on it. Now, we'll get to the title in a minute, because I think people would be intrigued as to why the What About My Saucepans comes from. But if you can tell us maybe a little bit what inspired you to write this book, or what it's about a little bit.
Okay, I think I was inspired because having left the UK in 2001, I used to write long emails back to big groups of friends in the UK. And this went, I used to write one a month. And after 2 or 3 years, people would say, you really should write a book. So the idea was in the back of my mind, but I'm not really a writer. I think I would call myself more a storyteller.
Yeah.
So I'd never win the Pulitzer Prize for fabulous writing, but what I do is I can tell people the story, so they think they're traveling with me on the journey. And I was shot around in 2006, and I wrote down what happened after the shooting. Cathartic as much as anything, and also because there was a big memory gap. So I spent time talking to people to say, well, what happened then, and where did you come into the story, and what happened to my genes that disappeared after the shooting. And I wrote it down, and once that's a chapter in the book. And then later on, the rest of it I built around it.
Yeah. And so actually, if we go back to before 2001, Lindsay, if you can talk a little bit about, because I mean, I know you had a really great job in marketing, you had your own house, you were married. I mean, pretty much the life that we all think that, you know, everyone wants to be, to have a successful life. You let all that go. Why? What made you make this decision of letting go everything that you had back in the UK, and what brought you to the Dominican?
It wasn't a quick decision. I think I knew that I had what everybody would want. I mean, I was earning, I don't know, $250,000 a year, maybe $500,000 with bonuses. I had so much money I didn't know what to do with it. You know, it would cost me to have my hair cut every 6 weeks was like $600-700. It was peanuts. And so I should have been happy, but when I woke up in the morning, I wasn't springing out of bed. And the only time I was really happy was when I was scuba diving. Not just the actual event with diving under the water, but the freedom, no makeup. It didn't matter what clothes I wore. I didn't have to make sure that the emeralds went with the skirt and the nails went with the shoes. I could just get up and go and be natural. And I thought if this is what I love doing, what is the rule to say I can't do this all the time?
Wow.
And I just felt hemmed in London. I just wanted to do something with my life. And so in the end, and I never do things by halves. I could have said to my husband, I'm going off for 6 months, but I didn't. I just cut all ties and left.
And left. And why what brought you to the Dominican Republic?
I went first to the Maldives, which are islands off the south of India. Then I ended up in Singapore, Thailand, Borneo, and I thought I could just work anywhere because I'm British. You know, I have a British passport. But you can't, you need work permits all over the place. And I couldn't get work permits, and I didn't want to work illegally. So the only place I could work was Europe. So I went to Europe, to Minorca, which is an island off Spain. And it was just too cold. I don't do the Mediterranean, I do tropical. And I spoke French and German, but to be a dive instructor, you really could do with learning more languages. So I really wanted to go to South America. I really wanted to dive with the sharks off Costa Rica. So I decided to go somewhere to learn Spanish. Diving instructors have a website run by the Professional Diving Association, PADI. There was a job in the Dominican Republic. They speak Spanish, Caribbean, hot. I came to the deal.
That's amazing. And so you made the decision. You left everything behind and went. Lindsay, how did your friends and family respond to this when you first announced it? And I think this is a little bit where the title of the book comes in, which I found so amazing.
Well, my friends were behind me because they knew that I wasn't happy. They knew before I did. They could see how vibrant I was before I got myself into this. You know, I want to do something with my life stage. So they were for it. I had to go and tell my parents, and I was expecting major traumas because divorce doesn't happen in our family. And you don't leave your husband when you do things like that. And my mother just looked at me and said, "What about your saucepans?" They bought me these beautiful pans for Christmas and my birthday the previous year. This was only in the April. And I adored these saucepans, and they were the last thing from my mind. You know, I was taking my life in a suitcase, and there wasn't room for 10 beautiful stainless steel saucepans. So, but they were very concerned, but supportive.
Mm-hmm. And so you arrive in the Dominican Republic. Lindsay, if you can, what were your initial feelings once you arrived? Like, did you experience some sort of a cultural shock upon your arrival?
The shock was total euphoria. And that lasted for years. The shock of freedom. You could sit on a motorbike without a helmet. I'd never been on a motorbike before. That was the way of getting around. I could smoke. I'm a smoker. I could smoke wherever I wanted. You could wear whatever you wanted. I was going out more than I had in years, dancing in clubs. It was just, people were dancing on buses. They were dancing in the street, in the supermarket. There was music playing. It was just total fun.
Oh,
everyone was happy. No one would sit there and talk about, oh, it takes such a long time to go across London. Have you seen the price of this? How much money has your house gone up by? It was just fun.
Oh, and from having read your book, actually, there were situations that you explained where I had found myself sometimes feeling, oh my God, I think I would have been angry or frustrated, or maybe things that, you know, for us, you know, in Western civilization, we probably would have found unacceptable. But Lindsay, in the book, you always brought another side to these events where you portrayed like an understanding to put it behind you and move on. Like, what would you say was like the biggest difference in the way of life from the UK and the Dominican Republic? And did you actually experience any frustrations at the beginning?
At the beginning, I don't think I did experience too many frustrations. The things that got to you first was the stealing, I think. People would just take things from you. And to me, that was stealing. And then people would explain that, well, it's just you've got the money and they haven't. And so what's the problem? And that was very hard to get your head around. Whether it be the children just taking the fridge when you just bought them, or whether it be someone actually in your house going to the bathroom and coming out with 10 rolls of toilet paper shoved up their T-shirt. And you just had to realize, I think the thing when it started to get to me, I had some beautiful Timberland boots, and which I'd brought with me. And I saw a little Haitian boy wearing my boots. I only take a size 3 English, which is what, 5, 6 American. So I have small feet. And he must have been about 7, and he got my boots on. And I said, you know, what on earth have you got my boots on for? And he started to take them off, and he told me that one of my stepsons had given them to him, and he had no shoes. And you suddenly start thinking, it's a pair of boots. You know, you wear them once a year if you decide to go trekking. This kid has nothing. Let him have the boots. And just because things are done differently in a different country, it doesn't make it wrong. We've been brought up in a certain way, and that's the way we do things. There's just one quick example, which isn't actually in the book. When we got married in England in church, the pastor, the vicar, took out his handkerchief before he married us and blew his nose on his handkerchief and put it back in his trouser pocket. And my husband looked at me, Dominican, and said in Spanish, how on earth can he stand there with a pocket full of snot? That is absolutely repulsive. You should do it between your fingers and throw it on the ground, so at least it's not in your pocket, which of course to us is equally repulsive.
Right.
So it's just a totally different way of doing things.
And actually, if we go a few years later,
sorry, just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Video. Ella está haciendo video. Sorry. You're about to get mopped behind me.
So, if we go a few years later, Lindsay, I think you already touched on it a little bit. You experienced a more terrifying event. And I mean, I say terrifying because when I was reading it, for me, it probably would have been terrifying. The burglary, the shooting that you were talking about. Can you tell us a little bit about it and what happened?
I was alone in the house. My husband was working. I went out, as I always did, every Saturday night to karaoke, because I used to enjoy singing. I was feeling a bit, I usually stayed there till 1, 2 in the morning, but I just wasn't in the mood for some reason. So I drove home and I stopped outside the big iron gates that the villa where we lived had. And there were 2 guys standing outside the gates. We always had people there, that wasn't unusual. And I walked past them, went to open the gate, slide it open, and noticed the padlock was on the ground, which I thought was strange. So I bent to pick up the padlock, opened the gate, turned round to close the gate behind me, and then I was going to tell the guys outside that my husband wasn't home, but I thought I'll close the gate first. One just looked at the other, the gate was probably open a couple of feet, and said, Dale, which means give it to her. And I thought, well, what if they've obviously brought something for me or for my husband? And the other one just looked, lifted up his T-shirt, pulled out a gun, probably from about a foot or 2 away, and shot me.
And so, when you were shot, Lindsay, what was the first thing that went to your mind? Like, what happened from there? Sorry?
Run. I saw a light, a flash of light, and I heard this bang really loud. I thought, bloody hell, they're shooting at me. I didn't know I'd actually been shot. And I ran to the back of the house. Then my dogs came running out and they started shooting at the dogs. They ran out of bullets. The dogs started to attack them, so they ran. And then I tried to get up from the back of the house and I couldn't stand up. And I thought I must have been shot, but I had no idea where. my face was blowing up. I mean, my head literally went to where my shoulders are. As it happened, I was actually shot here, and the bullet, because it was taller, went through my lung, so the air escaped from my lungs, so the top half of my body filled up with air. Oh. And I knew I was dead. I mean, it was I was incredibly calm. I didn't panic. I just lay there and I spoke out loud, and I said to my father, who died a year before, "Hi, Dad, I'm coming to see you," because I knew I was dead. And I said hello, goodbye to my mother. I said goodbye to my husband. And I just said again out loud, "God, if you want, please give me just, if you can, just a little more time, just a bit, because I'm not very old. I really would like a bit more time, please." And as I was speaking out loud, there was a guy actually inside our house who was staying with us, and he'd gone to the toilet. Wasn't worried about gunshots because they were usual, you'd hear them. And as he was standing there having a pee, he heard me talking in Spanish. I don't know why I was talking in Spanish, outside the bathroom window. And they came out and found me. Oh. And then from there, all hell broke loose. Hundreds of people around yelling I was dead. I couldn't open my eyes by now, so I was trying to say I'm not dead. Hospital. They tried to get us in the car. Nobody could drive. So in the end, I was on the back of a motorbike. And eventually I ended up in a hospital in the local town where they did a tracheotomy, but they didn't do it properly. So they cut straight through my vocal cords.
Which is the reason why you lost a little bit of the strength in your voice, right, Lindsay? Yeah.
And I can't sing. I have no pitch. This is it. I can't go up or down. I'm just like this.
And so after the incident, Lindsay, how did you feel about still living in the Dominican Republic? I mean, did you ever feel that you wanted to go back to the UK, or maybe just some place where it was safer? What kept you there?
I never felt I wanted to leave. I mean, friends from the Dominican Republic who lived in heavily guarded, gated communities were saying, "You have to come and stay with us." And I was, no, this is my home and it won't happen again. These things happen once, they're not going to happen again. It was a random act, and this is my home and I'm going to stay. And I mean, I don't know if you get shot in England, but if you're in hospital in England, you will have the odd visitor in visiting hours from 7 till 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. The room will be full of flowers. Everyone will send you flowers. Everyone will send you cards. People will telephone. The difference in Dominican Republic was I had no flowers. I had no cards. I had over 400 people came to see me.
Wow. That's priceless.
And people who it cost a fortune to get there. I mean, I was in the capital by now, and it costs an awful lot of money for them to get there. They were going to a cathedral 3 or 4 hours away, the other side of the island, where there's a picture of the Virgin Mary. And they were lighting a special candle for me. People were praying for my life. I had visitors 24/7.
Wow. And I think that's priceless.
Yeah.
Priceless.
It's because the difference here is in England and other developed countries, nobody has time for anybody else. You're busy with work, and it's easy to say to your secretary, "Oh, please, use my credit card and send flowers to so-and-so, send a birthday card to so-and-so, do this, do that." Whereas here, people take time out for each other. The most important thing here isn't money. It isn't your career. It isn't being one up on the Joneses. It's the people who are around you. So.
Absolutely, that's so beautiful, Lindsay. And if we even fast forward a couple years later, I think another thing that really got to me was at some point your husband, your Dominican husband, he announced that he wanted to run for mayor, right?
Yeah.
What had sparked that interest, and when he announced this to you, what was your reaction to it?
Well, it was sparked because he started to get involved with politics at a local level a couple of years previously. And the existing mayor in the area wasn't doing a very good job. And he and I were always helping people, him more than me really, with money when they couldn't afford it, or food. We do dinner on Christmas Eve, which is the big time, and we'd have 100 and 150 people we'd feed. There was so much poverty and so much corruption. And he just said, the only way we can really make a difference is do it properly, and if I'm there, we can do it. I thought he was joking, because he was not, we didn't have loads of money, we weren't rich, we didn't have contacts. But I said, well, if you want to do it, do it. I mean, I should have investigated in hindsight what would be involved and how much it would cost, but there we go.
And what happened? Tell us a little bit about the campaign. It wasn't anything like we know in Western civilization, and it didn't go very, very smooth sailing, right?
No. It's very different. It's 24/7. Your house turns into the party headquarters. So there were people in the house, hundreds literally, from first thing in the morning, 6 in the morning till 2 the following morning. There's a lot of noise involved, music, cavalcades of cars and motorbikes, lots of visiting people, shaking hands, walking through the streets. Everything involves money. You have to pay for everything. And the first thing that happened with the primaries, where we were up against the existing mayor for the position to represent the party, they were the same party, and he wasn't very happy. So he had my husband arrested, we had accusations, there were attempted murders, we had to keep escaping over the back of the house, hide in woods. I mean, it was just one thing after another, and I just got more and more immune to the whole thing. I mean, I remember once, after one attempted murder, when the house was full of the car for bullet holes and smashed windscreens in and rocks and blood, and that I was told to get in the house and hide, and there were men walking around with sawn-off machine guns, jumping out of pillars, looking out of windows, making me hide under the bed. And that's what I did, exactly. I howled with laughter. It was like being in the middle of a movie set.
Yeah. When I was reading it, that's exactly what I was thinking. But one thing that caught my attention, Lindsay, is that at some point, your husband was offered money to step down.
Yeah.
He refused. So, and to me, I thought, wow. I mean, obviously it wasn't about the money. What was the decision? I mean, the both of you could have stepped down, just taken the money and put an end to this. But you refused and continued going through it.
Because we had so many people who believed in us. All these people wanted him to win. We're talking thousands of people who were, I mean, the support was overwhelming. The inquest, how do you say that in English? The polls that they checked, 80% of people, 73, whatever, wanted him to win. And if we'd just taken the money, I mean, it would have been a slap in the face to all of these people who'd been helping us, working with us, who wanted him to win. And if we just did it so that we'd get a few million pesos, it was like it was all fake. So that was never a possibility.
Mm-hmm. And after the second campaign, Lindsay, you ended up losing everything, right? Everything.
Everything.
I mean, for people who haven't read the book, and I strongly recommend that people do, I mean, you lost the house, everything. You were actually ended up living in what we know here as total poverty.
Yeah, totally. A slum.
How was that for you, Lindsay? You came from having known what you did in the UK to now living almost the complete different lifestyle. How was that?
It was, at the beginning, it was a relief to be safe, to be out of everything. And so to be able to sleep in your bed not waiting for someone to come banging on the window, no people with guns. I didn't see a gun. I haven't seen a gun since then. So it was total relief. And then it moved into desperation, I suppose. But you just get on with it. The main thing that hit me was hunger. I'd never been hungry before. But you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, starving, hungry. And that's very hard. And where you have to eat porridge for 2 or 3, 4, 5 days, because anything just to get food into your stomach. And it makes you really understand what poverty is. And suddenly I found myself moving into becoming more of a Dominican frame of mind, in that I would happily sit outside on a chair for hours and hours on end because there was nothing else to do, and chat to people to pass the time of day, because there was nothing to do. You couldn't go anywhere in a car. You couldn't go anywhere on a bus because you didn't have bus fare. You had nothing to eat, so you couldn't eat. Just maybe a banana at lunchtime with an egg, and a bowl of porridge at night.
Wow.
It was just, and one thing that I never let go was my computer. And that's when I really got into writing and blogging.
Oh, and you still stayed in the Dominican Republic. I mean, for you, that was it. And at this point, Lindsay, when you came to that point, did you ever think then that you felt you wanted to leave?
No, we were gonna fight. This was another phase. And something inside me said, this is for a reason. You know, I knew that if I kept working really, really hard at writing, doing articles, you know, we could get enough money, we could get a little bit more. I mean, can you imagine? And I had such fantastic friends. I mean, if I was really sick and I couldn't afford any pills, my mother was unbelievable. I'd say, Mum, I'm really ill, or other friends who I've acknowledged in the book would suddenly just send $100. $100, that was like a month's money. It was, oh my God. Yeah. And I would do exactly what the Dominicans do. I couldn't suddenly save it and say, okay, that's $5 today. $100, that was, wow, let's just get something really nice, you know, which I've never been able to understand before.
Yeah.
And that people just spend the money straight up.
So what would you say then, Lindsay, is the most important, the life lesson that you've learned from this experience, from like the 12 years now of living there?
Have faith.
And keep going.
That's the most important thing. And keep going. And I am not a massive religious person, so don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, you know, God will look after you. But as I say to some of the very religious Dominicans, God will only help those who help themselves. Don't sit on your backside and wait for something to happen, because it won't. Just get on. Think, what can I do? Don't feel sorry for yourself. Just get on with it. And I got on with my writing. I put myself out there. I sent emails. I said this. And slowly, we began to recuperate. And when you've lost everything, I cannot tell you the pleasure when you have it back. When you go into the kitchen, you stand in front of your fridge. It's a fridge, yeah? I now have a fridge again. I had 3 years with no fridge. I can now, every time I stand in front of that fridge, I cannot tell you the incredible pleasure out of opening a fridge and seeing food inside it. It is just like, wow. And the pleasure for getting back to having things when you've had nothing, it's worth having nothing for.
Yeah, because I think you end up realizing what it is to appreciate and be grateful for what you have, because sometimes we don't when we always have
you can't be if you've always had it. It's impossible. I mean, you will eat a mushroom and you will say, yeah, it's a nice mushroom. If I eat a mushroom now, I haven't had a mushroom for 2 years because there aren't any here. But if I eat a mushroom now, I cannot tell you the amazing, incredible pleasure I will feel about eating a mushroom. So it's better not to have, I think, because then when you get it back again, it's worth every penny, and it's worth 3 years of hunger and poverty to be able to appreciate. Now we have managed to, I mean, we're not rich, don't get me wrong, we're still poor, but we're not poor.
Exactly. I think you probably today have a different definition of what being rich and being poor is, right?
Yeah,
I don't think it's based on material stuff anymore. And what would you...
No, it's $500 a month is rich.
And what would you say then, Lindsay, is the most important thing in life for you now?
Most important thing in life is to be happy, which sounds very crass, but you are in control of your own emotions. Don't let other people dictate to you how you think you should feel. So, for example, if a man finishes a relationship with a woman, she can't say, he did this to me, he did that to me. No, he didn't, because you're in charge of what you want to make it feel. And if you want to be unhappy and you're feeling sad, allow yourself to do that for 20 minutes. You don't have to do it for 3 weeks. So allow yourself to have that emotion and say, okay, I can feel that way if I want to, but if I don't want to, I have the choice to go out there, look at a butterfly in the garden, to read a book that I've been longing to read for ages, to go and make some bread because I really fancy a nice piece of bread. You don't have to feel miserable when everything around you is crashing down. It's your choice.
Wow, that's so beautiful, Lindsay. Thank you so much. And once again, I think I mean, you can see I had all my little book notes on the things that really touched me and inspired, and I think everyone should read it. But thank you so much, Lindsay, for being here and having shared your personal experience with us.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun.